There are a lot of changes on the horizon for Indiana's workforce boards. Rob King from a workforce board down in southern Indiana is here to talk about it on the Midwest Flourish. Greetings, I'm Rick Farrant, and I'm your host for the Midwest Flourish. Our guest today is Rob King, who is the Executive Director of the South Central Region 8 Workforce Board in Indiana. Welcome, Rob.
Hey, thanks, Rick. I appreciate you having me, and looking forward to this conversation. I think it's a great platform to get some messages out.
So your workforce board serves 8 counties and includes cities and counties that may be familiar to Hoosiers. That would include Bloomington and Brown County among them. And you're also tied to Vincennes University, as I understand it. Which is kind of an unusual situation for a workforce board to be tied to a university. What is the relationship between the university and the workforce board?
Well, and that is a great question. I get asked, quite a bit, because we're always worried about, is there any kind of conflict of interest or anything of that nature? But from the perspective of higher education institute or a potential service provider, the relationship is absolutely no different than it is with Ivy Tech or any other potential training provider from that standpoint. The reason is our workforce board do not have any direct employees or volunteers for that matter. So our board is clean from that way. They put a request for proposal out for the 3 main entities that you bid on, which is my position as staff to the board. And of course, we have a one-stop operator and a service provider, which are all 3 separate entities that can be bid on individually or as one package. So from the VU standpoint, we partner with VU and we bid on these contracts on behalf of Vincennes University. But the main important thing here is that we are not subsidized in any way by the Vincennes University main campus at all. In fact, we pay for all of our operations through the grants we are awarded via federal, state, local, or private grants. Our official title is Vincennes University Workforce Development Services Region 8. And as I mentioned, we are part of the VU family and proud of that, because that's a really good university to be attached to. But we technically pay to be Vincennes University. So we pay for their supportive services such as HR, insurance, things of that nature. But all those costs come from our budgets and our grants that we do, if that makes sense.
Right. So your staff is essentially Vincennes. Is that correct?
Our staff, yeah, they are directly hired through the Vincennes payroll. Yes.
Yeah. And are you?
I am.
And you are too. Okay. Very briefly describe what the workforce board in your region does. You don't have to go deep into the weeds, but essentially, what is it that you do?
Well, and that's one of those questions. I go and give presentations to a lot of the entities and organizations in our region over this, and it lasts 2 to 3 hours when I do it. So I'm going to keep it as brief as possible. I figured it would be good to start out with just a basic definition that you can look up, you can Google or do whatever you want. But basically, a workforce board is a business-driven entity, so to speak, that is tasked with setting workforce strategy, overseeing federal, state, and local, private funding that it receives, budgets. It's tasked with aligning workforce programs with local employer needs and trying to build and sustain a skilled workforce, if that makes sense. That's just a basic definition that you can look up that is tied to a workforce board.
Yeah.
But we know when I go out and give presentations, the board is so much more than that. It really is. It's responsible for also making sure that the job seekers are connected with training opportunities, job opportunities, and we identify these in our in-demand occupations through our WorkOne job centers. So our WorkOnes are the heart of our operations, where people come in and get the services. That's where service provider staff are, and they meet them on the front lines. One thing that's unique about our region, we've been able through all the times, the lean times, and money's been tight, but our board is adamant about keeping a WorkOne office open in all 8 counties. And we've been able to do that. And to this day, we still have a presence in all 8 counties with our WorkOnes. So that's really good with us.
Yeah, that was a good summary. Some people might assume that with your connections to Vincennes University, and also the fact that in Bloomington, you've got this big university called Indiana University that, that you'd be awash with resources and that generally speaking, you'd have a very highly educated citizenry. But in fact, and I could be wrong on this, I looked it up, that in 6 of the 8 counties, more than 10% of the residents do not have a high school degree. I don't know if that percentage, still holds firm. But speaking to that, adult education is obviously very, very important to you as a workforce board and the work that you do. So tell us about the efforts that you've undertaken to skill up adults in your area.
Yeah. And, the data has always been unique here for that since I've been in this for almost 25 years now. And Monroe County is unique. We serve the surrounding counties would be skewed if we include Monroe County data, especially educational data in the mix, which is why, usually when we take a look at
and excuse me for a second, Monroe County would be Bloomington and IU, right? That's okay.
That is true. IU and Bloomington, and we're very fortunate. Monroe County is robust with services from social to training to employment to local government. They do quite a bit of things. Bloomington's kind of like, a utopia city. You love living here. I love it. My wife and I both went to IU Bloomington and we have great ties to it. But if you go outside, 10 minutes either direction and you're no longer in Bloomington. So, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just, the resources, they change drastically when you go anywhere else.
Right. I mean, it's very rural, right? I mean, once
absolutely,
exactly.
Very rural. Very rural. And there's a lot of diversity in Monroe County, which we have diversity, but it's not like it is in Bloomington, which helps. That brings along other services when you're fortunate enough to have that. So, we look at the data from the perspective of other regions, and that's how we approach that. So you're right. You mentioned adult education is very, very important to us. It absolutely is. We go to great lengths to maintain that relationship. And in fact, we have adult education co-located in 5 or 6 of the offices out of our 8 directly on site so we can work with them. And the other 2, we're still working closely. It's just they have their own building in those counties. So, and we actually have a robust relationship with Monroe County. It's called Broadview Learning Center through the Monroe County Community School Systems. But you got to realize adult ed, we have about 5 providers here, 4 or 5 outside Monroe County. We got Vincennes University adult ed that serves the southern 4 regions, which would be Davies, Martin, Lawrence, and Orange. That's our southern counties. And then we have Brown County Resource Center through Brown County Community Schools up in Nashville area to the far north. We also have Owen County Public Library adult ed. And then, of course, we have a powerhouse out in Greene County called Wagler Education and Training Center. They are just they're almost like a career and technical education entity, to be honest. They provide much more, way beyond all our adult ed providers provide more than just the standard high school equivalency.
Right. And one of the tools that frankly all the workforce boards in the state of Indiana can utilize to lesser or greater success are the workforce ready grants. I'm going to assume that you have used the workforce ready grants, and what has been your experience in using those? So I'll just, for others, I'll explain it. So, you have one set of grants that are for, employer training grants, which are existing employers that the employers will use, but the workforce ready grant are for individuals and not necessarily tied to an employer. So what's been your experience in using the Workforce Ready grants?
Well, the Workforce Ready grant is kind of like a dream grant, to be honest. It was kind of like a grant that was formed after the Indiana grants, I can't say Work Indiana grants that we used to have. It replaced those, and basically it streamlines the process for getting folks in. To training, getting certificate training, so to speak. So we've been very successful with that here. And we have like short-term training such as welding, advanced manufacturing, machining, HVAC, and such things in demand occupations. We work closely with our adult ed providers, and I am going to use Wagler Education and Training Center as an example here. we teach them, we collaborate with them to show them what everything that we need to do, from enrolling people and things we need, and what's the requirements to get in the streamline grant. Which, by streamline too, I do want to touch, just say that streamline means if you meet certain criteria, you can go to training, you can go get skills, and then probably go right into a job. So we teach them everything they need to know about the grant, and then they teach us everything they need when they put somebody through their trainings. So that what's unique about Workforce Ready Grant is when they get them in for these trainings, they're also able to help them with to build up their skills. So if they need a high school equivalency or just to upgrade their skills, they do that while they're going through the training program, and it's very successful. So WRG, we could move as much money as they give us. I think this past year we moved over $1 million in Workforce Ready Grant. We could move 3 million if we could have it.
Yeah.
So, and our other providers are in that mix as well.
So getting adults to elevate their education and or advance their skills sometimes can be a heavy lift. I suppose that it depends on the region, but I would say overall, you still have a fair number of adults who either think it's unnecessary, which would be incorrect, or they're just resistant to change, right? They've been used to earning a living in a certain way. It worked for them, worked for their parents, worked for their grandparents, and they would just, ideally, they would prefer to just continue working that way, earning a living that way, and providing for their family. How do you convince adults that it is important for them basically to be lifelong learners?
Well, I mean, a lot of the jobs that are coming open today you have to have a certain level of education. And in some cases, a lot of folks are realizing that. Now, getting them to move, even though they're being maybe, a little resistant to the change, as I mentioned, linking adult education to employment opportunities and training opportunities helps. We've had, and I have to put a lot of kudos onto the adult providers that we work with. They're able to show them, hey, we link some kind of training with getting your high school equivalency and upgrading your skills to help you get ready for those jobs. The certifications is kind of like that. It kind of hooks them. So as long as they're able to do that while they're getting their adult education upgraded skills, it works. So that's what we have found. And, being able to work on upgrading skills while getting that specific job training is just a win-win for them. So that's where I think that's how we hook them in and make them realize that, this is something you can do, and it's going to open a lot more doors for you. So a lot of kudos to our partners for that in adult ed. They're really, if we can just get them in the door to those folks, they'll take care of the rest.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, and you may not, but do you do anything special to get them in the door?
well, I mean, anybody that walks in the door, that's, the good thing too, when you file unemployment, you're going to have to come through our doors eventually. So we're making sure we get them into where they need to be. And that's where co-location comes into, I don't have to send you across town to go see the adult ed. I'm going to walk you down the hall and take you to them.
Yeah.
I just got to get you in our door. And there's many ways to get them in our door. When the economy is going really well, which, it has been for quite a while now, they're able to get jobs. So getting them in the door is a little bit more difficult. But remember, we're also looking at some employers working with them to upskill the folks that they have as well. So that we have to include them in the mix now.
Yeah, and you mentioned unemployment, and I took a look at some of that. Generally speaking, at least within the last year, I didn't go much beyond that. But your region has done pretty good. Your counties, generally speaking, have been at or below what the state average is for unemployment. What do you attribute that to in your area? I know overall it's below the state average, and I would suspect that Bloomington and Monroe County has something to do with that. But even individually, some of those rural counties have done pretty good. Why is that?
Well, I think it's related to the strength of the overall economy, and and I got to say, Indiana,
But Rob, not every region of Indiana is doing well. I mean, there are some regions that are struggling with the unemployment rate. So, and when you say overall economy, you're referring to the overall economy in your region, correct? Or is it just
that is correct.
Okay.
In Region 8, the overall economy has been sustained. And actually, we've been able to develop a little bit, quite a bit here. Daviess County, for example, their manufacturing their advanced manufacturing. They've had several new businesses expand or move into that area. We have, of course, Bloomington is expanding with the tech industry is starting to take off big, which affects the surrounding counties as well. Because a lot of people in our counties have worked in Bloomington. You have to realize that. So they're traveling to Bloomington. Brown County sustains pretty well with its tourism and retail activity. Owen County has Boston Scientific there and a couple other ones there. So life sciences is really huge here. And you also got to realize what's getting ready to boom here, and it's not even really full force yet, is microelectronics and chip manufacturing is getting ready to, it's going to boom here in it's going to be in Monroe and around Monroe County and out by Crane at Westgate, but it's going to affect every county here for jobs. So recruiting for those jobs is going to be kind of tough.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point, which sort of I've espoused for a while, is that a regional economy, people generally don't know about county lines, right? You've got people moving back and forth across county lines. When you take a look at the economy of a region, I would guess. You talked about people moving into Bloomington, that having IU at least in one county may be a real draw for a company that wants to locate in a surrounding county. Have you found that to be true?
In some cases, yes. Bloomington, as much as I love Bloomington, housing is a big issue here. So if you can bring in a company here, if they can't live near it, it really affects it. So I think, getting our economic development folks to communicate with the other economic development folks to like for housing, development and things of that nature would benefit them. Because, that would be a unique model to have one economic development in Monroe County investing in like a Lawrence County or a Greene County to do things, which you don't really see because they always like to keep their money within their county, if you think about it. So this is some opportunities that could happen.
Yeah, I want to come back to that whole economic development thing. You've concentrated on building an ecosystem of collaboration. What does that look like in your region?
Well, in our region, we like it goes back to the definition of our workforce board. It's our job to make sure. I mean, we're strategic conveners. So, it is our job that we are required to make sure that the economic development organizations, adult ed, higher ed institutes, and any more, pretty much the K to 12 space, we're starting to really get into that area, and the government agency and state agencies. It's our job to make sure we're in sync and talking to each other. So, various methods that we do there, we have, we have convenings for all those folks. The economic development. We just started this in the past year, but the economic development from organizations from all 8 counties are now starting to meet, and they are collaborating on what's going on in each individual county and how they can help each other. Not what can you do for me, but how can we help each other grow the entire region?
Well, I'm going to dive into that whole workforce economic development thing. What is
Okay.
the synergy, if any, now that exists between workforce and economic development, and what is the importance of having both of those really, fundamentally closely tied efforts? What's the advantage of having it? But where are you now with workforce and economic development working together?
Well, actually, I think we work quite well together because, you ask what the synergy is, what brings us together is all those economic agencies recruit employers as members. And our ultimate goal is to make sure employers' needs are met. And they tend to work with their economic development folks to try to identify how to fix those needs. They kind of use any method they can. So I think bringing, our board and the economic development organizations even closer together will help us identify what the needs are of the employers. In the end, that's your benefit. And then we can provide trainings and they know who to get them to. Because the economic development folks need to know exactly who we are, what we do. I don't think many people really truly realize that the WorkOne offices are the infrastructure of the state. That's the state employment agency, if you think about it. People don't identify it like that. It's only what they need and what they know, and if they get to us, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. So there's a proposal afoot to reduce the number of workforce boards in the state of Indiana from 12 to 8. Specifically, what impact? I mean, it looks like that's going to happen, maybe not immediately, but in the next year or two. What impact does that have on your region as it stands now? And generally, what do you think about having a reduction in the number of workforce regions in the state?
Well, I mean, first off, I mean, it is the governor's. right to do what he's doing. And we should be looking at the regions and making sure they're efficient. I totally agree with that. We should always review it. This change seems to be pretty major. And, the personal, out of the entire state map, I think we might be most impacted. I won't say we are. We're in the top two. We're currently 8 counties, but we're region 8. The new proposed region 7 would expand to 19 counties. So I can tell you where I stand on it. I collaborated with all our folks, everybody that we've talked about here today, all had an opinion, and we all came to a consensus that in the end, it doesn't matter what you expand to. 19 counties seems like a lot, especially when you'll have 2 main hubs. Evansville's its own hub, and it's not like Bloomington, and Bloomington's not like Evansville. So that would cause some issues. So we have a little bit of concerns with it, but whatever's adopted, and I agree with you, it's probably going to be close no matter what happens. We're waiting for the final map to be released, and then I guess we're going to try to attack it from there and see where we need to go. But overall, it's a lot of counties. I don't know that one board for that many counties would be. There could be some issues.
So are you saying that because I've looked at the map, but not necessarily for your area? Does that basically eliminate the Region 8?
Well, I mean, the Region 8 would be in the new Region 7, so
Okay.
yeah, it's going to expand to that and absorb all those other counties. So as one, and that definitely affects Region 11. I believe it's most, or if not all, of Region 11 and all of Region 8, and I think one county in Region 10 is going to be, wrapped up into that new region. So that's pretty amazing, really. We were thinking more along the lines of getting added 3 or 4 counties here, or something like that. And you asked the interesting question, what do I think about the current structure? I think 12 regions is not bad right now. I mean, I think everybody's doing, I collaborate closely with my partners, and they all seem to be doing good things. Not any one region is alike. We're not, you're unique and have to adapt to what is going on in your region, which makes sense. So I will say I've got a hats off to all my counterparts and everything they're doing. So no issues there. But as you mentioned, it looks like it's going to be done, and the governor can do exactly what he's doing. So we're going to roll with it. We'll expand if needed, and we'll just, it's going to be a busy next 6 to 18 months, as you mentioned.
Have you? I think you may have mentioned this. Have you had discussions with the folks in Region 7 about, what this new alignment in this 19 county mammoth region might turn out to be? Are there been any preliminary discussions that you've had?
Well, I mean, it would be mainly with Region 11 is the one. It's weird not to be confusing, but the current Region 7 would be rolled into Region 4. So Region 8, the current Region 8, and 11. Oh yeah, it's confusing kind of when you talk about it like that. But we've had like preliminary meetings, and we have been talking about it. But I think it's a little early to decide how we're going to do it. And I'm making sure we're going to get the input on that. It will be our local elected officials will be tasked with coming up with a plan to do that, and potentially the board chairs. And again, I'm in a unique position. I'm not on the board. I don't work directly for the board. So I'm a bidder in that case. Vincennes University is a bidder. So I kind of have to, I get input and I get to talk, but I got to stay out of it when they do it, because we're probably going to plan on bidding on something. I imagine it's going to go to rebidding for things. So I've got like a really unique situation for me. Some of my counterparts work directly for the board, but I do not.
Yeah. So the workforce boards in the state are part of an alliance. It's called the Indiana Workforce Alliance. What does that alliance do, and what and what are its goals?
Well, I mean, the alliance is, foundationally, it's made up of my counterparts. So we've always met. I've been part of this. I mean, the alliance itself has been, I've been working with this particular group for the last few years. One thing that we do is collaborate on what everybody's doing, and we try to share best practices and things of that nature. That's just a standard. But our main goal as a collective group is to try to help streamline the state public workforce system, so that we ensure everybody that comes through our doors possess the talents needed, to get jobs in Indiana and be successful. And we always, we talk about the resources available, how Department of Workforce Development's works with us. And then sometimes as a group, we try to advocate for what we think is best for our regions. Now, sometimes that's individual because our regions are different, but there's many things we collaborate on that we have a similar opinion about. So we can draft up, as a group and to include our boards in that and present letters and proposals and things of that nature to say how we think it should be done. So really it's a platform for us and our boards collaboratively to share data and information and really give a return on investment on things we do, if that makes sense.
And how successful do you feel the alliance has been in convincing policymakers, people of influence, that there's a certain need or a certain direction that you think would be good for the workforce boards in the state of Indiana?
Well, that's pinpoint right to the point. So far, I don't think we've been very effective at all. And that's not on any fault of any member. I just think, for example, this realignment, we've had no input on it. They've not asked. We can give, but I don't feel like they're listening to us at all. And they're not going to. And it's their right. That's not a complaint. So we're not going to be effective as a group. Our group doesn't have the power to influence that right now. Another good example was, you remember the Jobs for America's Graduates program. Okay, we all went to bat. And I was working directly with senators, House representatives, as was my counterparts. We stopped nothing. We didn't influence. Maybe we needed more help from BWD. And again, we were just a voice in the air. So the decision was made without our input, which I'm not saying I don't think that was right. I think that was a grave error. Terminating that program. I think it's a great program. So that's why I am an advocate for it, and I always will be. And I thought it was a bad decision to terminate it, but we made no effect. We had nothing that I saw. There was no effect on stopping that.
Yeah, I realize, Rob, that was a tough question. But
yeah,
I didn't.
I like my counterparts and groups, and I hope they don't take this wrong. But no, I don't think It's not because we don't try. It's just we're not effective.
Yeah,
we don't have the voice.
I didn't want to leave the elephant in the room. I mean, it's a situation that exists, right? And even if it's not problematic, it's certainly something that's worth paying attention to, right? I mean, even if someone thinks it's not. Yeah. As we wrap up, I want to ask you, what drives you to ensure people are prepared for successful lives and careers? You spent a good part of your life sort of in this workforce, education arena. So there must be something that makes you really passionate about this.
Absolutely. Well, I kind of got two lives here. My first life was in the United States Air Force, and I'm extremely proud to serve there. I think that's one of the finest organizations, period. And you have a sense of purpose and something that's important to you overall, what you're doing, no matter where you're at or what you're doing. And that's what I need in my life. And family brought us back to Indiana. And when I got in this field, it is more of a calling. And, it is a passion to help people. I realize, sometimes what people don't see in our field. And I started out here in this. I've been a case manager all the way up to MIS data, all the way up to where I'm at now. You run into people that you helped years ago, and some of them are not only successful, they're living better lives. You impacted their lives and their family in a positive way. And that's important to me. So that drives me easily. And a lot of people that are in our field that are in our top percentage that really I admire all our folks, but your top people, they're doing it for a calling as well. So love the work. It's very, very important. And I will tell you this, as a taxpayer, and I know I'm probably biased here, but if I leave and never had nothing to do with this, what I know, my tax dollars can go to this all the time. And I feel good because it does help people. So wonderful job. I love it.
Well, listen, thanks for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate all of your insights. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate it, bud. You have a good day.
You too.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Midwest Flourish podcast. Want to dig deeper or get involved? Head to marketingthemidwest.com to explore how we can work together to empower your community to flourish. Let's keep the Midwest momentum going and shape the future of our region together.